Hello and welcome to the show. I'm here on BeamNG Drive with some more vehicles taking on the downhill chaos route. Our first vehicle today is an older Range Rover. It's designed for off-roading. I believe this can be used for rock crawling. I have got the high range gearbox, so it's a fairly sensible gearbox in this car at the moment. First attempt, and well, I found some understeer that I wasn't quite expecting. A little bit of understeer, and then started hitting the bumps, that bounce the car. There we go. You know what I mean. Had a little bit of a crash on the opening run, and the understeer would catch me out a few times, just not quite having as much steering as I was expecting. Sort of coming out of the corners, I thought we were around okay. I go and put my foot down to try to accelerate away, and it's just drags the car again. Just getting a little bit more understeer than I was expecting from this particular vehicle. That time just ran a tiny bit wide. That's all it takes on this course. Run a little bit wide, get caught on a bump that you're not used to, you're not really supposed to be out there, and then you end up in a tree with quite a poorly Range Rover. This time it wasn't quite an understeer problem as I came over the jump and snapped the whole front steering. It's not good either to land a jump and have all of the steering busted up completely. The car itself was still working, the engine was still intact. Actually quite a strong vehicle, this one. Just that time round, landed a bit heavy on the nose, and when you do that it's quite easy to break the steering. Next time round I got to the same point, managed to find a different issue. I turned in a little bit too soon to the corner. The door has vanished apparently. Not sure where that ended up. Yeah, I turned a little bit too soon into the corner, and that promptly rolled the vehicle. Next time I just got the jump a little bit wrong. What I think was happening as we tumble some more is there was a little bit of a bounce before the lip of the jump, so the truck is getting a bit of airtime off the first lip, which goes over the second one and gives it a very bad landing. Now, this isn't normally a problem for too many cars. I love how the front wheels are just there wiggling. I'm not doing that. That's there's nothing to do with me, and the wheels are wiggling away. Yeah, it's again, we've got some more understeer going on as I try to leave the tree hairpin, and that's not quite made enough of a turn, and now we're going for a big fall. Just about get away. I mean, it's a strong car, this one, and that survived a pretty hefty impact. It's now the Rage Ver on the back. It was always funny trying to make it say silly things on the boot of the car. Again, more understeer as we exit towards the final corner. That tree has caused a few problems before. I thought I was fine. I thought, we'll be absolutely fine as I booted it out of that corner, and it just wasn't quite enough steering, and we just ended up in the tree. It's a dangerous tree, that one. That's claimed far many more victims than it probably should have done. I'm always annoyed when I drive into that tree once I've got that far into the run. Aside from the understeer that you had to be a little bit careful with, and the second jump that caused some issues for the Range Rover, it's not a bad car. It's not a bad car, this one. It's an off-road vehicle, so it should deal with the bumps around here relatively well, and yes, it does. There's no, aside from that jump, there are no real problem areas. Deals with the rest of the course very well. You do have to be careful with the understeer. You've got to be a little bit slower through the corners, and perhaps I would ideally, you can't chuck it around in the same way as some of the other vehicles that I've driven. It doesn't have the power either. Perhaps the biggest downside to this vehicle is just not powerful enough. I would like a lot more power out of this car to get a really good time and to really chuck it around this course. I need some more power out of the car. It's just not quite fast enough. Again, it does not like the second jump. We take a clout on the front of the vehicle. This time we get away with it though. Yes, we damage the front, provided we don't hit the steering, then we're okay. It's now the Range Rover on the back of it as we round the final corner, and then there is the run towards the line. Not particularly quick accelerating, and we parked it. Probably my favourite parking job I've ever done in a video game. Just perfectly in front of the garage. Yeah, as far as damage wise, apart from that smack on the front over the second jump, it survives very well down the course, as you would expect. Our second vehicle is the Hyundai Elantra, it's something like that. Yeah, I thought I would give this car a go. It's another front-wheel drive car. Had a couple of these now in the last two episodes of this, if you like. Front-wheel drive is not necessarily a bad thing to go down this course. The rear-wheel drive cars often tend to struggle with, you just kind of spin them out quite easily on this particular route. So front-wheel drive can be quite good. It can work quite well going down here. On the opening run, I may have got a little bit carried away through turn 2, and then I couldn't get it stopped or turned into the next corner, and we ended up in the surprisingly large ditch. Now, one of the big problems with the Hyundai was the fact that the engine died very easily. Well, I think it's the driveline, technically, that snaps. I also managed to break the steering as well into that corner, so it didn't stop. Yeah, if you take too heavier a hit on the front of the car, you have to hit it in a specific way as well. It's a little bit odd. If you hit it in a specific way, you snap the driveline, and then you lose all power to the car. You're bouncing along down there, and it's gone again. Yet sometimes it can survive this jump, and it'll still work. If you're kind of, well, didn't survive the jump so well that time, is if you're sort of turning into a corner and it bounces, and then you land while you're kind of taking a corner, that's what upsets the car. I don't quite know why, that's just what happened. You see, again, we're coming down here, we make the jump, okay, we're bouncing, we take a little bit of an impact, the engine is still working up until this point. As I throw the car in, that's when the driveline snaps, and we lose all power to the front wheels. I mean, the engine will still make noise, and I can still complete the course because it is downhill. It is quite slow though. To finish the course, I may have made a silly mistake through the third corner there. It just clipped the inside bank a little bit too much. You can't get away with that on this game. Many a car has fallen over on that particular piece of terrain. I was just trying to get clever, carry as much speed as I could, cut the corner a tiny bit. It didn't work out that time round. Again, similar story on the next one. I may have got a little bit carried away and drove into a tree. Turns out when you have a tree versus a Hyundai, the tree tends to win this one. I've made a mess of my car. I think that's not the optimum racing line. Okay, don't take that line through that particular corner. Again, coming up towards the jump, well, we managed to have a problem before we ever got there. It killed the engine as well in the driveline. I keep saying engine, the engine technically still makes noise, but yeah, I managed to kill the driveline in that particular roll. The Mound of Doom didn't cause so much a problem as me slightly clipping the tree that put the car up onto its roof. I quite like the I think it's the not intercooler radiator. That's the thing I'm talking about. It looks kind of amusing on this car when you tear off the front bumper. You can see a little bit of damage from landing some of the jumps. And again, the car survives the jump, but it's the corner for whatever reason that kills the driveline. And then we have got no power. And for the second car in a row, it was that jump that was causing, or this area of track, I should say, that was causing real problems. This car is mainly the next corner after the jump. This time, I managed to slightly roll the car, and we've kind of crossed the finish line, sort of. We're in the finishing area, not in a particularly good condition. Slightly bent up front wheel. After a little while, I got a clean run with the Hyundai. It's not too bad of a car to drive, this one. Much like the Range Rover, it struggles with a lack of power. It's just not that fast. Not that fast accelerating, not that fast at top speed. So we were never going to have a record-breaking time from the vehicle. But it was quite nice to drive. We didn't have that much understeer. Despite this being front-wheel drive, I'm assuming the Range Rover was four-wheel drive, this handled very, very nicely. It was relatively easy to chuck this car around. We just don't have the acceleration. I mean, the other downside with the front-wheel drive cars, they do struggle a little bit on traction. They aren't quite as good at accelerating out of the corners. They do have a habit of sitting there and spinning their wheels, especially with the lower powered cars. They just can't get as much speed out of the corners as you would ideally like. But I mean, this is a road car, and it's handling the bumps very, very well through these opening parts of the course. Yes, I mean, it gets chucked around a little bit, but I've seen an awful lot worse from the particular road cars. This is where it gets scary. Trying to make sure that we get that, it's kind of a bit of luck. It's not really quick enough. I'd like it to be sort of 5 miles an hour faster coming to that jump to clear it nicely. This time round, we don't shatter the driveline. The car will keep going. The front bumper is looking a bit worse for wear, and we get a slightly scary moment going up onto two wheels around the final corner, and it is across the line for the Hyundai and parked in the garage. Not massively well parked in the garage, but it is parked, and then we slightly get it stuck on a post, and then physics gets a little bit confused and decides, nope, the post would be better off inside the car. As far as damage goes, it was doing pretty well. It held up very well through the bumps. It was just that second jump, not quite quick enough to clear it nicely, so it would often sort of smack the front up on it. And our third and final vehicle today is a forklift truck, because, you know, why not try and drive a stupid vehicle down this course? I wasn't really sure if this was ever going to make it to the bottom of the course when I set off. I mean, there are quite a lot of things that make this difficult to drive. First of all, it's not designed to be driven off-road at all. As you can see, it bounces and wobbles around, it doesn't really like bumps, and it falls over quite easily. This is not the optimum design for an off-road vehicle. It really does struggle. I mean, the run into the first corner here is not particularly rough, and that's the sort of problems that you come up with. The rear-wheel steering makes it quite difficult to drive and very easy to make mistakes. I mean, often we roll there if you clip the inside bank. It's not so often that you roll just completely on its own accord. Yeah, this first bit here is not normally too bad for cars. You can see how much the forklift is bouncing around. We get a bit of a wheelie. Yeah, you did hear that right, a wheelie in a forklift truck, and then we fall off the course again. I mean, it's not surprising to have accidents at turn 1 when you get a little bit brave, but this thing is so difficult to drive over the bumps. The rear wheel steering isn't helping, and the very high centre of mass is the biggest problem. Well, combine the high centre of mass and tiny wheelbase and big prongs at the front that mess around with your ride height. It's not designed for this, as we wibble and wobble and go on 2 wheels and slightly scrape a tree, and now we're falling off down the mountain. Yeah, it's really not designed. We get lots of rolls. That's an impressive number of rolls from a it's probably a record for a forklift truck. Yeah, it's not at all designed for this. Pretty much everything about this is bad for driving. Well, I say that having a small wheelbase can be advantageous for rallying, but probably not this small. It's also front-wheel drive with rear-wheel steering, which is a first. I'm pretty sure it's front-wheel drive anyway. Either that, or every time I've crashed it, it instantly kills the drive line to the back wheels. It's very easy to get it stuck in a ditch. We made it a little bit further the next time, but it just fell over. I don't know what I did to you to deserve that. It was incredibly tricky and very slow to make any progress. Now, I'm trying to be very cautious around this corner because I know what's coming up next, and this is the real problem for the forklift truck, because I know this is not going to be happy over this second jump. And sure enough, things actually go remarkably well on my first attempt over the second jump. That is the best I did with the forklift truck. I wish I was joking, but that is the first attempt I had with it is by far the best I got with the forklift truck. The theme of this episode is going to be failing on that blooming second jump. We're going in a straight line this time, and we have some problems. We fell over one way, and before toppling back over the other. I mean, that's a fairly rough. Some cars have problems in that braking zone there for the next corner. I've not seen a vehicle fall over before ever reaching the corner. We're back at the start of the route, around the third corner. We've found some bumps, and it's just so hard to bring it back. Once you start losing control of it over the bumps, it starts toppling. It's almost impossible to gather it back up again, and then we're stuck on our side. If you do wander over to the side of the course, you really are in trouble again. I'm frantically trying to get it back on course. It's not going to work, and forklift truck is on its side again and sliding down the hill, kind of in a better position than normal, but it got stuck. I couldn't get it out of the ditch again. But the real killer, if you like, was this second jump. Whatever I did, I couldn't make it work. If I boot it and try and get across it, we don't get enough speed, we hit the landing, and the truck flips. So I was trying to be cautious, try and be really slow, and this is to the side is the most likely way to survive that. I've had a few vehicles down here before, and if you try and go across the middle of the jump, it's too steep or a drop. That causes problems. Hence why you see me trying to aim for the side, where there's the sort of the least gradient, if you like. But he wasn't having any of it that time. I clipped the banking before I ever got to the actual jump. I mean, this is a very steep piece of hill. So it is incredibly hard to get this thing to go down here slowly. It just wants to keep accelerating. We do just have good enough brakes. It takes a long time to get down here, though. You really have to just crawl down to the jump. I thought this was going to be the one, but even then, because it suddenly gets a little bit steeper, the truck or the forklift accelerates, and you just lose control of it. It's nigh impossible to get it across that jump. I spent far too long trying to get the forklift truck across the jump, and it all ended exactly the same way. Even this is me kind of giving up and deciding, right, we're going to go for it. You can see we have problems even getting to the jump if you go for it. The forklift truck, I just can't do that jump. The rest of the course is difficult, but it can make it. But that jump is the undoing of yet another silly vehicle. So our third vehicle gets a DNF on the course. Onto the times, it's actually a pretty respectable time from the Hyundai. A 1:24.6 puts it slightly ahead of the prototype, and the Datsun has an asterisk there because it completely destroyed its suspension during its run. I mean, it's quicker than the Kiwi, the Fork Free. That's not too bad from the Hyundai, and with a bit more power, I think that could be a decently quick car down this course. The Range Rover is further down with a 1:26.8. Again, not a too bad of a vehicle, that one. It just struggles with understeer, and again, it's just a lack of power, really, from the Range Rover. And the forklift truck goes in the DNF category with the steamroller and the the giant trailer thing. Yeah, forklift truck and off-roading, turns out, don't quite go so well together. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. If you want to have a go with these mods that I've used in this video, there will be links in the description so you can find them and download them yourself. However, that is it from me, so thank you very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.